Welcome back, Red Top Podcast, Season 2, Episode 8. This is going to be our big game episode of the year. Obviously, if something crazy happens, you will hear about it again. But we're going to hit two things today. First, or I guess second now, we're going to do jig and pop tuna. Kind of just hitting the basics and a little bit of specifics on gear, what you're using, where you should be looking, what you should be looking for, etc. And also, we're going to talk about sharks from the beach. It's becoming that time of year. The water temperature in Vineyard Sound's starting to kind of creep up to almost 70 degrees. So we're ready to go. And today I am joined by a new employee of the shop. Super excited to have him on the podcast today. We'll see how he does. He's been doing well in the shop, so we'll see if he can do as well in the podcast. So, Max, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I'm going to start to kind of rotate employees through the podcast. I'm going to just start putting you guys on the spot, dragging you on podcasts, whether you know about the topic or not. I think it's going to be fun. It'll be funny. And also, it gives everybody a chance to kind of hear the voices that we have in the shop every week. I mean, we have a lot of faces in and out of here all the time, so it's nice to put some names to faces and get familiar with one another. So, sharks. Was this your first year sharking?
No, I did a little last year, but this is the first year I had like my own real shark setup.
Okay. So, I guess we'll start there. Shark setups. I know we talked about this a little bit last year with Chris. We had Chris LaFrange on. That was probably one of our best podcasts to date. It was just, he was incredible. It was just a good podcast all around. But setups. If you fish the canal and have a canal setup, you can go catch a shark. Easily. My first shark setup was I think it was a 10 Fierce 6500 with a Tsunami Airwave.
It has to be nothing expensive.
Like, you don't need fancy gear. I mean, we all know the kid last year who caught the tarpon on the canal, on the beach down on the south side of the Cape. He caught that on, I think he said it was like a 10-foot battle with
Pre-made combo. We've got them here.
Yeah, it wasn't anything special. Like, everyone thinks when you go tangle with sharks out on the beach, like, you need this, a 20,000 Saragossa and black hole heavy surf. You don't. If you have a canal setup, you can catch a shark. So you're looking for, a 10 to 11 foot rod that is rated, 3 to 8 ounces, 4 to 10 if you have that luxury, and just a canal size reel. Daiwa sizes, a 5,000 or 14,000, Shimano 14,000, and Penn 55 or 6,500 will do just fine. Most of the sharks you're targeting are, 60 to 100 pounds. I mean, if you are lucky enough to hook into a big brown, they do get upwards of 200. We did get one of those last year, and a little undergunned on canal gear, but you can do it, to say the least. Just, I guess, bait. They're sharks. They're scavenger sharks. They eat everything. A big thing I like to do is focus on what bait is around the area. Think of what's around. Like, if you're fishing an outlet on the south side, more likely than not, there's bluefish. So bluefish may be more productive. If you're fishing more of a rocky area, eels will do well. Eels are pretty consistent just about anywhere. Now, as I said, they are scavenger sharks, so dead bait, not live bait, just seems to be more productive. I've never heard of a brown shark being caught on live bait.
I've never heard anyone using live bait from the beach for sharks.
No, it
unheard of.
Yeah, it's most likely you're using dead bait, whether it's dead eels, dead bluefish, bluefish chunk, just about anything. I mean, pogies, mackerel.
Any bait you can find will likely catch a shark.
Yeah, I mean, they're sharks. They're not picky. The beauty of brown sharks as well, I don't know if you know this, they are blind. They can't see anything. So they rely very heavily on their sense of smell to find bait in the sand. So I guess the stinkier the better. We're talking about sharks. It's not too hard when it comes to picking out bait. Whether it's frozen, fresh, doesn't matter. They will eat it if they're there. Something new that we started doing this year was kayak, or I guess late last year into this year, was kayaking out baits. I know most of you guys have seen the video we posted on Instagram of Ian dumping the kayak last year.
Almost did it last night.
He almost did it last night too. Last night was an interesting night. One of our first shark trips of the year. A lot of hits.
About 30. We got picked up 30 times, I'd say.
Yeah, a lot of sharks out there. I mean, picking it up, running, dropping it. Just kind of like as soon as you get over the rod, just dropping the bait and totally screwing with you. So it's unfortunate, but obviously we are early in the season just because the water temperature is right. We gave it a shot and it ended up, kind of proving that there are brown sharks around right now. So it's just a matter of time before we hook one.
Yep.
I think Monday night is going to be our ticket.
Dude, I think go out any night after last night, you can go catch sharks.
Yeah. My thing is, like, especially right now with the moon phase, I mean, the moon kind of kills sharking. Not because of the tides being big, but because it's so bright out. Like last night, we didn't really have to use headlamps.
Yeah.
The moon was so bright. And these sharks, they only feed at night, or primarily feed at night. So having that bright moon doesn't help us. But, I think after this moon phase is over and we get into kind of a smaller moon that's not so bright, sharking's definitely going to take off, and we'll definitely be on them. So I'm super excited for that. And just another thing, we always fish in groups, especially when we're shark fishing.
Dangerous.
Don't go alone. It is not smart. You will not be able to do it alone. Bring at least, a buddy with you. Have at least two of you out there. Because when it comes to getting the shark on the beach, unhooking it, and getting it back, you do not want to do that alone. Like Max said, they're dangerous. They're
broken
sharks.
rods, broken equipment, lost fingers, lost hands. Anything can happen. They're sharks. So
yes.
Be careful.
So be careful. Something kind of important to bring is long reach pliers. We have them here at the shop. 11 to 12 inch pliers. That way your hand is nowhere near the hook. Make sure you are using circle hooks as well. I'll dive a little bit more into the rigs after this, but definitely have a pair of long reach pliers. Definitely have headlamps. And for rigs, what we use primarily circle hooks. Don't use J hooks.
No. Use
circle hooks. You want to hook these sharks right in the corner of the mouth. And about 100% of the time with circle hooks, you will do that.
And it makes it so much easier trying to take it out.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to go digging. The hook's right in the corner of the mouth. Easy to pull out. Now, we're after the hook, we're running about a foot and a half of wire out to about 6 or 7 feet of 200-pound mono. This entire rig is going to be crimped together. We're not tying any knots. The mono is mainly for not only stretch, but if a shark gets his tail around your braid and you do tail wrap, he will cut right through the braid. So the mono kind of acts as an abrasion resistance for the skin of the shark because it is like sandpaper and it will shred your braid to pieces. Mm-hmm. We had it happen last night. Had a bait get picked up. Shark ran. We did go tight for probably 4 or 5 seconds and then broke off, reel up, and you see about 3-4 feet of the braid all chafed up from the tail and a very frayed break. So sometimes the sharks are bigger than your rigs and you can't avoid it, but unfortunately that's the game you play. I would say that is a big benefit of kayaking out baits and not casting them. You can run a much, much longer rig. I mean, most of the rigs we're running are 6 to 8.
Ian even made one that was about 18, 20 feet long, specifically for the kayak last night.
Yeah, I mean, like Max said, the kayak rigs we can use, big 14 plus foot rigs just because you don't have to worry about casting it. It's not going to drag on the ground behind you. You just throw it on the back of the kayak, bring it out. And it's super easy and effective, especially with bait placement. Sometimes you're casting a little wild. But I guess dropping kayaks can too, because I didn't do too well last night.
I mean, that's the other thing too, is with kayaks, you got to be super careful, especially with sharking, because it's late at night. If you don't have anyone with you, you don't have no idea where the rods are on the beach.
No, it's
no clue how far away you are. And anything happens to you, you're like, Ian, you dump the kayak, you're screwed.
You're out there solo. Yeah, so kayaking it comes with risks, but obviously the payoff can be pretty big just because you can place your baits way further than you could ever cast them. So that is cool. Now, when the shark picks up the bait, you're going to want to get over to your rod, let him run, leave your drag super, super loose while it's in the sand spike. Let him run for, I'd say,
10, 15, 20 seconds.
No, probably not 20. I'd say 10.
Yeah.
Max, yeah, once he runs for 10 seconds, tighten that drag down. Obviously, with circle hooks, you're not setting the hook. You just need to get tight on the fish. Have fun, fight him. He's going to fight like hell. They are super, super strong for how big they are. Even a 4 or 5 foot shark will take you a good 15, 20 minutes to get it to the beach. Once you do see the shark, you do want to kind of get him into that shallow water, let him beach himself. Go down. Have somebody holding your rig to keep his head out of the way. Have somebody else go behind, grab the tail, and pull him up into like the whitewash of the beach. You want to keep the shark in the water, letting the waves hit him, but obviously not enough water where he can swing around and grab you. Mm-hmm. You then are going to want to get behind him and kind of kneel down right behind his dorsal fin. Place your knees on his pectoral fins just so he can't spin on you. Have another person pull the hook out, stand up off the shark, grab the tail, drag him back into the water, spin him around so he's facing the ocean, not the beach, and let him swim off. If you do take pictures, obviously keep him in the whitewash the whole time. Don't take the shark fully out of the water. There are very strict regulations when it comes to brown sharks, so you want to limit the time you're handling it. And also, while you are handling it, you want it to be safe for both you and the shark. So keep him in the water and keep your hands clear of its mouth. Especially pushing the point again why we use long reach pliers.
Yes.
So, sharking. Anything else? No chumming from the beach. That is not allowed. It is illegal almost everywhere. You cannot chum from the beach. Don't try to do it. Even if you have a kayak, don't bring chum out. It is not allowed under any circumstances. And honestly, it doesn't really increase your odds that much. No. Only thing it increases your odds of are
catching a ticket.
Catching a ticket and losing fishing gear. Mm-hmm. So don't do that. That is definitely frowned upon legally.
Yeah, I'm ready to talk about tuna. Let's go. Chicken Paul.
You want to talk about tuna?
Let's talk about tuna.
All right. I'll let you start then.
I mean,
you're going tomorrow.
I'm going tomorrow morning, looking to get my first fish popping. Last year I was lucky enough to get one jigging with Cape Cod Offshore. I was using a prototype Zach's custom conventional rod with a Shimano Oshi jigger conventional, and I got it on a Hoagie sand eel. Took us about 3 hours to reel it in. I had no clue how big it was until we got it to like the boat, first tuna. But yeah, it was about 250, 300 pounds. Luckily, right under that commercial limit, we were able to keep it. And yeah, it was unreal. So it was so good. I'm going back out tomorrow with Dying Breed Sports Fishing, and we're gonna go right off P-Town. Hopefully, hit the golf ball and get some tuna on top.
Yeah,
I'm stoked.
I mean, it's definitely it's that time of year where we have fish south of the vineyard, we have fish out east of Chatham. They're I mean, if they're not in the bay already, maybe I'm behind, but they'll be there any day. Especially up in those areas like Max said, the golf ball, Peaked Hill. Usually there's a good bite around Middle Bank in late June. Some of those fish will hold up there. Cool part with jigs, though, I know you hit it there quick. Like, you had no idea how big the fish was until you got to the boat.
No.
which obviously, an hour into the fight, you can assume it's not a 50-pound fish.
Yeah, exactly.
But when a tuna hit jigs, what happens is they come up from underneath it and they hit it and immediately turn. They cut left or right or go back down to the bottom. So they hit like freight trains. And the cool part is they're down deep in that cold, cold water. So they're full of piss and vinegar. So you could hook an 80-pound fish and fight it for 2 hours because it's just so wired in that cold, cold water down deep that it just has the energy to kind of put you through hell. And it will. I mean, they will. They're tuna. They're one of the hardest fighting fish in the ocean, pound for pound. And, us, especially being on Cape Cod, we are super lucky to be able
to go after these fish.
Of course, Howard's calling me right now.
Yeah, but I was fortunate enough that earlier this week, Connor was able to get me my own jig rod. It was a Jigging World Silver Bullet up to 450 grams.
It's 450, yeah. Shout out to Mike from Jigging World, Mike Kim. Great friend of mine. He's also our sales rep for Jigging World. He is incredible when it comes to his products and his brand. I've never seen somebody more passionate in a company than Mike. And he is gracious enough to help some of the guys here out at the shop and help us test some rods out. That way we can get you guys some feedback and let you know how they perform. I'm kitted out right now. I have matching plugging and jigging setups, both in their new lineup. The AMF stands for Alpha Mike Foxtrot or something else, if you know what I'm saying. And they're incredible rods. The AMF specifically, they teamed up with Crafty One Customs to make the blank, and they truly made an incredible rod. So definitely make sure you check out some of the Jigging World stuff. And you will have Mike on the podcast in probably the next couple of weeks here. We were talking last night while we were sharking, so I'm super excited to get him on the podcast too, because that's going to be a good one for you guys. But yeah, I mean, more into jigging, I guess, setup wise. I know you were using a conventional setup. I prefer spinning. I'm more comfortable with it when I am full of adrenaline fighting a fish. The last thing I want to think about is laying the line flat on my reel and worrying about crowning it. So for me, I use a 18,000 Saragossa paired up with that Jigging World AMF rod. Was fortunate enough to get out with Joe Baggs on Monday. Shout out to Joe. We were able to get some fish, and it was a lot of fun. All the gear performed great, and got some on the troll, and it was a lot of fun. Down where he is, it's a little spotty still, so some smaller fish around. Had to troll them up. Still a blast though.
So you obviously have much more experience than I do doing this, but for popping tuna, what would you recommend? Like if someone's out there trying to get into this, they have a boat or they just looking, their friend has a boat, what do you recommend for a popping setup?
Yeah, so oddly enough, this is my 4th year tuna fishing.
Jeez.
This isn't huge. It's not one of those things that I've been into since I was a kid. It's just, I really just picked up on it, especially from being around the shop, seeing you guys coming in and out, showing pictures and stuff. I knew I had to be a part of it and kind of understand what tuna fishing is like. And I really just fell in love with it. First couple of years were rough.
They're tough.
Yeah. I mean, you got to grind. Switching from inshore to offshore is a whole nother game. And I will credit me being at the shop so much with, my ability to pick up so much so fast and being fortunate enough to kind of understand these fish a little more. But for a popping rod, I guess if you're new to it, you're looking for a 7-foot to 7.6 rod. I prefer them to be 50 to 100 pound line. Anywhere from 2 to 6 ounces, 3 to 8, either or, kind of almost, I guess, transitioning your canal gear into tuna popping.
Just a shorter rod.
Yeah, just a shorter rod. 2.6, 3 to 8 ounce, 7 foot, 7.6 for popping. If you don't have a T-top on a center console or are on a center console, enough room, 7.6s are great. I'm on a pilot house in a Steiger craft, so 7-footers are much, much easier for me to cast off of because I got the big pilot house in the front of the way. But yeah, I mean, really, if you have a canal reel, that can easily be swapped over to tuna.
Yeah, I'm using my 14K Gosa tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what I use. 14K Saragossa. I have spooled up with straight 50-pound Yozuri braid. Tensile brake strength on Yozuri is super, super high. So I'm able to use a lighter pound test and still have a super high brake strength. So it helps with my casting, especially since I don't get to use a 7.6. But yeah, I mean, specific rods. I use the AMF. I started out with the Jigging World Black Widow. Great rod. That's a 7'6". But I knew when the AMF came out, I had to switch over to it. If you aren't looking to spend, $300-400 on a rod, you can definitely get away with, even a 7-foot heavy ugly stick.
Oh yeah, those things are indestructible.
You can get a 7-foot extra heavy ugly stick and be fine. Who else has rods that aren't too expensive? Dark Matter. You can do the HK series. Technically, they're inshore rods, but they're totally offshore rods. Super, super fast action rods. Plenty of backbone for tuna. I think those are right around $200, $230.
Those are sweet.
Good looking rods. Great product coming out by Dark Matter. So, yeah, I mean, you don't need super fancy gear to pull this off. I mean, you could go out with a Penn Battle 6500 and an ugly stick and catch a tuna. Obviously, longevity-wise, it may not hold up as long as higher-end gear, but, I mean, what do you expect? You're fishing, $180, $200 combo. You'll get your money's worth, that's for sure. But, yeah, I mean, it's just something about it.
Yeah.
Tug's the drug, and tuna is the ultimate tug.
That rewarding feeling when you stick that fish with the gaff and get the tail wrap around and bring it in the boat is like, holy shit! Like I just did that, and it's unreal. It's got to try it once in your lifetime.
You have to try it. If you haven't tried it, go do it. Especially now, June into July is the best time to do it. So when the fish just show up, they stay in super, super close. I mean, you can go 7-8 miles south of the vineyard right now and catch fish. So, you don't need a huge boat. I got a 25-foot boat. I've done the Sword in a 23-foot boat.
Yeah.
It's a doable fishery. And obviously, if you don't have access to a boat, there's plenty of charter captains. Like Max said, he's going out with Dying Breed tomorrow, has been out with Cape Cod Offshore.
It's worth the $400 or $500 with tip. It's worth it. I mean, we were able to get home I had 40 pounds of tuna in my cooler for a week. I was giving it to everyone. You're spending $450 on a trip, but the experience is there, and you probably come home with at least $200 worth of tuna, which is,
I'd say more than that.
Yeah.
I mean, think you caught a 300-pound fish. Most people aren't doing that on spin. Most fish are around 80, 100 pounds.
But still,
so I mean, you're gonna pull 60 pounds of meat off it. So if you're paying $25 a pound at a market for tuna, you're talking $1,500 worth of tuna.
And you get to keep it, catch it yourself. I mean, the whole experience is there too.
Yeah.
So, get out with the guys, get out with your friends, tell the wife, the girlfriend, you're not going to be home that morning. Tell them you're going golfing, and then you're not going to be home for the day. You're going to be unreachable. Just fall off the face of the earth and go crush some tuna. It's a blast. I can't get enough of it. I just went on Monday, and I'm still trying to scramble to get more trips set up to go. Because especially, I mean, I know I talked about it a couple of episodes ago. June is my tuna month. Once June shows up, I'm no longer striper fishing. Ian was kind of pissed at me the other day because he's still on the striper grind, and he's been trying to get me to go, and I just can't drag myself out to do it because I know at any minute I could get an open spot on a boat, get a weather window for my boat or something, and just go because all I want to do is hook tuna on spinning gear because it's addicting. I can't get enough of it. Another tip is if you're planning on doing them next year, definitely book them now or the beginning of the year, because they fill up so quick. I mean, everyone saw that the tuna was on fire 2 weeks ago, and everyone wanted to get on a boat 2 weeks ago. It's not how it works. It's hard to do that. It sucks
Plan
for the
ahead.
captains too, because some guy drops out. They're looking for as many people to fill the boat as possible. I was fortunate enough, me and my buddy were able to get on. Just you got to keep up on Instagram, text them. I mean, book them now if you plan on going next year. But otherwise, keep an eye out, because
they fill up.
July,
August, and September
Yeah.
just fill up. I mean, you're talking 4 months of just hardcore tuna fishermen, and all they do is tuna. So, yeah, like Max said, book your trips now. Plan ahead. I know a kid who already has his trips booked for August, September. He's had them booked since last November.
Even October is solid too.
Yeah, he's already starting to book trips for next year too. Just because he knows once those fish show up and people want to go, they're gone.
Yeah.
So kind of into plugging more. A big thing is, which I think is kind of funny, a lot of people forget that you're on a boat. I understand the adrenaline when you first hook a fish. It gets hectic. I mean, you're running around, you're tight, the reel's screaming, you're screaming.
Under the boat.
Your friends are screaming. You're on a boat. Use the boat. Move the boat. You don't want to go vertical on a tuna off the bat. It is bad. They go under. They sit under that boat, and they use all their strength, and you have to pull up not only the weight of the fish, but you have to pull up a fish that is fighting you up and down. So you want to make sure to move the boat, get a good angle on the fish. I guess I jumped the gun talking about that, but when you're pulling up to a school, obviously what to look for when you're popping is tuna. You're looking for breaking fish. If the fish are breaking, get ahead of them. Don't pull directly on top of the school. Those fish are swimming in sometimes excess of 40 miles an hour. They're moving fast. Get out in front of them, cast outside the schools, kind of treat them like false albacore. Because really it's false albacore on steroids. You're talking about 100-pound albies, basically.
Yeah.
So get in front of them. Mad Mantis poppers, Hoagie charter grade sliders, Joe Bag sand eels, and the 2-ounce are up. All great lures to throw, especially this time of year with the fish feeding on mackerel and sand eels. Try different profiles, try poppers, try swim baits, try gliders, try everything. Odds are if you get a lure into tuna, you're going to hook up. They aren't very picky, especially when they're feeding on top. Obviously, now that you're tight, keep the fish out from under the boat, move the boat. Sometimes the fisherman is only as good as the captain when it comes to tuna fishing. I especially see this in giant fishing. If you don't know how to maneuver the boat properly around a tuna and keep him in a place where you have leverage over him versus him having leverage over you, you will break off. Once you fought the fish for a while and he seems to be kind of burnt out, and he's starting to come up to the top, you're going to get fooled, because the first time he comes to the boat, he's going to dump all that line again because he wants no part of it. And it's absolutely hysterical, because you will be beat, you will be tired, you are going to think it's over, and then it's not, and you're back to square one. But finally, once you get the fish at the boat, you want to wait for what they call a pinwheel. The tuna will turn on its side, and it will basically swim in little circles around the boat. That is when you have the green light to gaff a fish. If you have a fish at the boat, and I call it a blackback, if they are still swimming naturally upside right, don't try to gaff the fish. If it's barely in the water and you have a good gaff shot and you can get its head out of the water, great. But if you can't, don't gaff the fish. We had an instance last year. I was out east with a friend of mine, and hooked a tuna on the troll, made the mistake of taking the boat out of gear. Fish bum rushed the boat. We got him under the boat. Wasn't pinwheeling. Stuck him with a gaff. He freaked out, ripped the gaff out, pulled it right out of his back, and then my braid got all wrapped up in the gaff. I somehow became a hero and unwrapped it with the rod in between my legs, which I still to this day don't recall even doing. That was the adrenaline that took over, but it's a mess. Wait for the pinwheel. Obviously, nerves can be, heightened and your adrenaline's going and you're not thinking straight, but try to stay calm and wait for the right moment to gaff the fish, because if you don't, you could have spent an hour, 2 hours, even 4 hours like Max did to just break off right next to the boat. And you will cry.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're beat and there's no reward. So definitely wait for the right moment to gaff. And once you get him on the gaff, get him in the boat, celebrate. It is a huge feat catching a tuna, especially if it's your first one. If it's your first one, I'm sorry, but it ruined every other kind of fishing for you. You're not going to want to do anything other than tuna. They say people, oh, you're going to go tuna fishing and never want to fish for anything again. And the classic response I always hear is, I'll always striped bass fish. Until you hook a tuna and it dumps 300 yards of line in 25 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, it does. It ruins every kind of fishing for you. I will say ever since my first tuna, I haven't really taken any other fishing as seriously as tuna, just because all I want to do is hook tuna on light tackle spinning gear. It's addicting. Holy. What else?
I think we covered the majority of both of them.
Popping, jigging, sharks.
A little trolling.
No, I mean, we get some trolling. So trolling can get complicated, especially this time of year. If, the fish are kind of spread out, they're not feeding on top, they're kind of cruising in packs of 2 or 3, sometimes even solo. Trolling is the most effective way to catch tuna. I mean, even if they're feeding on top, you could probably get more hookups if you troll and cast. But nobody wants to troll. It's not as much fun. I mean, if you do use light trolling setups, it can be a blast.
But it is boring as hell when you're not catching anything.
It's boring until you hook up, as is any fishing. But for trolling, you're going to want to run some spreader bars, some daisy chains, a little secret tip that not a lot of people do. I run 4 spreader bars behind my boat. I'll run 2 side trackers, one that'll shoot up to the port and one to the starboard. I'll then run 2 straight bars directly behind the boat in the whitewash, and I'll run what they call flatline. So I'll take a spinning rod and put on a 5-ounce swim bait, whether it's a Hoagie Pro Tail, Joe Bag Patriot Fish, doesn't matter. White soft plastic. You can use a Ron Z2 if you want a straight tail presentation. And I will use a flatline clip, which I will link in the description of this podcast. And basically what I'll do is I will clip that to the D-ring on the transom of the boat and run the line through it. That way the line is running parallel to the water instead of at a hard angle. What that's going to do is it's going to push your lure down an extra 15 feet. And, I'll give away all my secrets right now. If you are trolling and you see fish breaking on top and there's no boats around, and you can get over to the school with your spread out, don't try to stop the troll and then cast, because it's just going to be a mess. Troll directly over the school or even right on the outside of it. And what's going to happen is the boat's going to push them down. The spreader bars are going to push them down. And you're presented with 2 flat lines directly behind the boat at about 30, 40 feet deep, which is where those tuna are going to sit when you spook them. And 9 times out of 10, those flat lines will go off. So I know they always say don't run the fish over, but
in this case,
if you're trolling, run the fish over, because you'll sink them and they'll hit the flat lines. And then, not only do you get to hook tuna, but you get to hook them on spinning gear. So you still get the thrill of fighting them on spinning gear, which I love. As I've said probably 1,000 times in this already. But yeah, I mean, find your weather windows, find a captain, get out there, go tuna fish. Now's the time. Tuna, sharks. If you guys have any other questions, leave some comments. Feel free to call the shop. Come in, talk to us. I am always more than happy to sit and talk tuna with people. This is my favorite. As you can tell, this podcast is kind of all over the place because I get too excited when it comes to tuna.
How
So
can you not? So
thanks for listening. I know this was probably all over the place, probably not our best podcast, but hopefully it had some information that'll help you guys out. And we will see you all on the next one.